Okay, next for the second part, writing a strong research proposal for for a fellowship when we are applying to international fellowship, something like not is in your hand. It is totally based on sometime research proposal. So what you makes a research idea truly good or worth experience? What is your advice to make a proposal writing?
I mean, many things, but I would start first with the big idea, the big picture. I think often the mistake that many people write proposal at any stage, whether it's fellowship or an advanced
Or
PI
grant
proposal,
writing? Mm-hmm.
is missing really the simple message behind that proposal. What's your 30-second pitch? I
Mm-hmm.
like to say, what's the 30-second pitch? Whatever your fellowship or your grant is about, if you happen to walk into an elevator and Bill Gates is there, and you have 3 or 4 floors to convince them to fund you, maybe they ask you, what are you doing? You say, I'm a biologist, I work on plant disease or plant pathology. They say, okay, do you have an idea or do you have a project? And you have that 30 seconds to tell them about your project. What would that be about? And I think what's important about that is the narrative. There has to be a coherent narrative. For instance, you could say, I actually did my master's on microbiology and I became an expert in microbiology, but then during my PhD, I started studying root-associated microbes. And now I combine these two knowledge of maybe sort of strong molecular microbiology with understanding the rhizosphere and the rhizobacteria. And now for my fellowship, I want to take this further and do something else, right? So that's a bit of a personal narrative that kind of connects the threads of your career in a narrative, not necessarily in a dry way, right? So again, if you want to convince someone, you have to tell them a story. So try to think about the story. Try to think about how this fellowship relates to your past and relates to your background, and what's the rationale behind the fellowship.
Okay, the student who is starting to prepare research proposals, we can for example for your background. So, do you think you like a innovative idea or you like the well structured idea in the research proposal?
I think it's very hard question to answer because it really depends on what program you're applying to, and some programs are more conservative than others. So it's very hard to give you a generic answer. However, what you really absolutely need is the what I like to call the Go rep. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you came across this, but this is in one of my blogs, and it's about how do you structure a research project. So Go rep stands for goal, hypothesis, rationale, and experimental plan. So that has to be incredibly clear in your mind. And sometimes, I mean, I often see proposals at any level, to be honest, that don't have a hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I mean, when I review a proposal, one of the first thing I do is I search for the word hypothesis in the document. And if I don't find it, I'm not going to be impressed by that proposal. There has to be a statement about what the hypothesis is. And the rationale also is very important, which can also be, again, the personal rationale, right? It could be because of your background, this has led you develop certain skills that allow you now to answer a new question, right? So it can be scientific rationale, but can also be strategic rationale, right? You have identified the connection with a lab that has complementary expertise,
Yeah.
and now you're going to bring something to that lab and build this new idea and new research. So, I mean, there are gradients of creativity and gradients of innovation. And again, that varies a lot. But what's more important is the coherence of the idea. And the coherence comes through having a very well-defined goal, a very well-defined hypothesis, a scientific rationale, a strategic rationale, even a personal rationale about you and your background and how that this extends that. And then, of course, a solid experimental plan.
Thank you very much for